Hello everyone, it is me, it is I. Hi, hello, hi, welcome and welcome back to my welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hello. My name is Ivy, also known as the Geek Goddess, here on YouTube. And this channel we talk about bookish and geeky, nerdy things. And so today I have a reading vlog for you, because I am reading not one, but 4 different Sapphic vampire novels in honor of Pride Month. I didn't realize how many vampire Sapphic horror novels that I own until I looked through my shelves and I was like, oh. First, I'm going to give you a little overview of all the 4 books that I will be reading in this reading vlog. Initially, it was only going to be 3, but you will see that later on I realized that there's another book that I had recently added to my shelves that also happened to be a Sapphic vampire novel that my friend informed me, and I was like, okay, well now I have to add this to my reading vlog. And we are here now. This is where we are. And so let's go over the books. Let me tell you the synopsis. We're going to do the reading vlog, and then at the very end I'm going to give you my last minute thoughts. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with this reading vlog. Da, da. Okay, so in no particular order, the books that I will be reading is, the first one is going to be an audiobook, and that is going to be Carmilla by, I forgot who the author was, but it'll be here. So Carmilla is basically the OG Sapphic vampire book, and I think it's the OG Sapphic vampire book if I'm not mistaken. Let me know if I'm wrong. But in this one we are following our main character, who is named Laura, and Laura lives in the 1800s, and all of a sudden she gets a unexpected stranger in her little town who is a female who is her age, and she strikes up a friendship and perhaps even a little bit more with the stranger because she has nobody else around her in her little town, and she's like, oh, let's be friends, let's be friends. And things start to happen. People start to perish, and there's no unexplainable cause, but they realize that it started happening when the stranger came in. And so that is the first book that I will be reading. The second book that I will be reading is a retelling of Carmilla, and that is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. We're following our main character Lenore, who is in her early 30s, where she's like 30, so it's a little bit older than the main character in Carmilla, and we follow her as she has her husband, and then all of a sudden a stranger named Carmilla goes to her home, and she has to take care of her and bring her back to health. And this stranger, this Carmilla person, starts to make Lenore question her husband, her stance as being a woman, and things happen from there. And so I'm very excited to include this one in the reading vlog as well. And the next book that we're going to be reading is a book that I have had on my shelf for years, and I'm so excited to finally read it. And that is going to be A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I would hear that this one's lyrical and poetic and beautiful. And in this one we are following Constanta, which is one of Dracula's brides, and we basically follow the tale of Dracula but told through one of the wives' perspectives. So I'm going to be including this one as well. And then lastly but certainly not least is my unexpected add-on, right? I wasn't expecting to add this one in this reading vlog, but apparently it's here because I didn't know that it was a Sapphic vampire novel at first, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Now this is a recent release by V.E. Schwab. It is a brand new book that just came out by this author, and in this one we are following 3 different perspectives from 3 different women. We have Maria, we have Charlotte, and then we have Alice. So Maria is from 1532, and she is a woman that is ahead of her time. She does not want to be the typical submissive wife. She wants something bigger, grander, and so she, does what she's supposed to do, marries a man, but she has bigger plans ahead of her. And then we follow Charlotte, who is in the 1800s, who was in love with her best friend, and then she gets sent to London because of it. And then we follow Alice in 2019, and she is a college student, and a unexpected one-night stand leaves her with these powers that she didn't know that she would have. So all these 3 things, these powers, this thirst for something that this thirst for blood. So all three of these women are, they tell three different stories, and yes, and it is a vampire novel. And so we're going to be reading this one as well. So that is the 4 books. So these 3 plus Carmilla, right? These 3 plus Carmilla. I'll see if I can include it in the thumbnail. I'll be like, oh. And then I'll give you my thoughts throughout, and then we will wrap this up at the very end, and I will tell you my final rating, tier ranking on them. So let's get started. Hello. So I started listening to Carmilla yesterday night, and this morning while I was walking I listened to it, and while I was working doing like mindless tasks I was listening to it, and I am about a little more than halfway through it, and I actually shockingly like this book. I've only tried reading like a book from the 1800s or whenever the heck this was made once before, and that was Frankenstein. That's the only other book that I read that was like hundreds of years old, and I thought it was like whatever, just because the writing was so old school and some stuff. It took a little bit for me, it took a bit for me to like be like, okay, wait, what was she talking about? But this book, I'm not sure if it's because I'm listening to it on audio, so it's easier to picture in my head. I don't know what it is, but I'm able to understand it very clearly. Or maybe it's because when I read Frankenstein, I was a lot younger, so I didn't fully comprehend it as much as I would now, being wiser and more mature. But I'm actually really enjoying it. So if you guys do not know, Carmilla follows we have our main character, and her name is Laura, and Laura lives in a little town where like it's in the middle of nowhere, okay? So she is only around her like housekeepers and her father. She's never had any friends. She's been like isolated her whole life pretty much. And one night when Laura is only 6 years old, she has a dream about a girl crouched at the end of her room crying, and after that she's never forgotten that dream. So it's been 12 years since she's had that dream, when all of a sudden a carriage happens to ride upon her town, and this woman comes out and she's like, my daughter is dying, blah 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 blah. And the dad, who is pretty much a good man, right, he's like, I will take care of your daughter. And because Laura's like, please let her stay here, like I've never had a friend. And so the girl ends up staying there, and she starts to get better, and then Laura finally sees her and she realizes that this is the girl from her dream. And that girl also realizes that she had a dream about Laura too. And this girl's name is Carmilla. So pretty soon the two form a friendship that turns into infatuation. They realize they're attracted to each other. But then things start to get really weird when people start undergoing this illness where they feel like they've been bit in the middle of the night, and then days later they get sicker until they die. And so this mysterious illness just happens to take the town. But what is it really? What is it really? And does Carmilla have anything to do with it? That's basically what's happening. I already know what's going on. I mean, this is a vampire book, so you can only assume what's going to be happening, right? But I don't want to give anything away just in case you don't know. But I knew like right away, just hearing vampire novel, and obviously we know who the vampire is, what, you know what I mean? But I'm actually really liking it. So right now it's looking like a 3.5 to 4 star for me. It's actually pretty good. I don't know, because it just shocked me. I was not expecting to like it this much. I thought at most I was going to give it like a 2-3 star, to be honest with you. But the fact that I'm pushing for like a 3.5 to 4 star, that's saying something, okay? Like, I'm really enjoying this book. I'll give you an update once I finish it. I'm probably going to finish it within the next half hour or so, or hour, I don't know. It's a very short book. It's like a 3-hour audio read, but I listened to it on 2.2x, so it's a 1.5 hour read for me. Please tell me if I'm not the only one that does that. So I'll be done with it in about like 30 minutes or so. So I'll let you know my final thoughts. So I told you I was gonna finish it fast. I only had like 11 minutes to go. So I actually finished it very quickly. And the ending was a little, I don't know. I feel like the ending was just so rushed. I feel like the whole book itself, like up until the ending, had a very consistent, slow pacing. We got to know Laura got to know Carmilla, and then little spooky, creepy things started coming up here and there. But I felt like the buildup was very slow. Even though it's a very short novel, it still was a slower, like a nice pace, if that makes any sense. And then all of a sudden, as soon as we find out that there's vampires and that there's this vampire that used to exist back in the day, from then on, the pacing just flipped. Like it went from a steady, consistent pacing to all of a sudden everything's happening at once and then everything's resolved in like a matter of 10 minutes, which made no sense at all to me. I don't know. So the ending is where it lost me. Because it just all felt so rushed. I felt like there was nothing wrong with pacing it out a little bit more so that it wouldn't all wrap up in like such a short amount of time, because that's ridiculous that like we have all this build up just for the climax to be 10 minutes long. It just makes no sense to me. And so that's where it lost me. So I was going to give it like a 4-star, but because of all the ending and all that for that climax that lasted no amount of time at all, I'm going to give it like a 3.5. What was that ending? Anyways, I'm trying to decide if I want to read Hungerstone or A Dowry of Blood next. I might do A Dowry of Blood because I think Carmilla Constantina is from A Dowry of Blood. Like that was one of Dracula's wives. And then read Hungerstone because that's also another take on Carmilla. We'll see. Hello, I am back. I am here with a update for you guys on the second book that I'm reading for this reading vlog. I am reading Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, and I've been dying to read this book because I just love the cover. And everybody's talking about it and everybody's like, this is so great, blah, 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 blah. And so I picked it up, and I just finished Carmilla. And so I'm picking this one up, and this is a retelling of Carmilla. And I have a love-hate relationship for this book, I guess, right now. I am a little bit more than halfway into it. I am on page 178. I'm on page 178. And in this book, we are following our main character, whose name is, I think in Carmilla it was Laura. But the main character in this book is Lenore. So her name is Lenore. And instead of it being a girl who's at her father's house, this is a woman who is at her husband's house. And so Lenore is at her husband's house when one night, a woman happens to fall upon her home named Carmilla, and she ends up being very sick, blah, blah, blah. And so they decide to keep her under their care. And Lenore realized that she once had a dream about Carmilla when she was younger, much like the book Carmilla. But that is pretty much where, and then other than the fact that it takes place during the same time period as Carmilla, and obviously it's about vampires, it's similar yet different. Obviously, it's retelling. I need to drink water. My throat is so dry. The train's passing by. Or something's passing by. Anyways, as I was saying. So, So it's very similar but very different. This is more like I feel like the other book was very like female, and I don't know, I feel like they're both very female forward but in different ways. Like our main character Lenore, she knows that, you know, she's a wife and she has her certain place, but even though she's just a wife, right, and women don't really have all those things that, like, they don't have all the luxuries that men have in their life, she still has all her pawns in place. She's smart. Like, she has all her pawns in place so that when, you know, if she goes missing or if she's not around her husband, people will ask, well, where's Lenore? Where's Lenore? Like, she's the one that got her and her husband into elite society. And so she's running this house and she wants Carmilla to stay there, although she doesn't know why, because she doesn't really like her too much, because Carmilla's pretty rude and she has a certain way of doing things, and she's pretty much like a feminist. Like, she's like, why do you let your husband talk to you like that? Why do you keep doing what he says? Like, she puts little things in her head, in Lenore's head. She's like just very much like female power sort of. She's a female power sort of girl, is what Carmilla is. And so we follow Lenore, and she has this love-hate relationship with Carmilla, but for some reason, like, she doesn't want Carmilla there, but at the same time she wants Carmilla there. And then we follow another character named Cora, and Cora is Lenore's friend, but her and Carmilla like have this dynamic where they just don't like each other. Like, Carmilla's like, she's sneaky, I don't like her, and then Cora is also like, Carmilla, there's something wrong with Carmilla. The thing that I hate about historical fiction is when the women are treated beneath men. Like, that's so much, I fudging hate that. That's like the worst thing that I hate it. I hate it. And that's why I don't like historical fiction, because of the way that women are treated. And I know that it happened in history or whatever, but still, it pisses me off. It pisses me off. So that's why I can't read historical fiction. And this has that. I feel like Carmilla didn't really have that. I don't know. Even though she was like a woman, she was still pretty, I don't know, equal. Like, nobody treated her some type of way just because she was a woman. But Lenore's husband treats her like dog poop because she is a woman, and he's like, oh, well, I'm the husband, this is my business, this is my house, even though Lenore is the one that literally like takes care of the house. And the reason why they have all these opportunities is because Lenore makes friends with these rich people. We find out that her husband's just not a good man. He's very sneaky. He does horrible things, and it's starting to get into Lenore's head. Like, she kept making excuses for her husband, and now she's like, maybe I shouldn't make excuses for this guy. And the things that Carmilla was saying to her about her husband start to creep in. So it's getting a little bit more female powered, but that is like the thing that keeps me from really enjoying this book, is that one pet peeve. Like, it just, I know it was history, but it just pisses me off because, you know, with everything going on now, like, I hate it. I hate the whole women being treated less than. It's just, it's a bunch of bull crap to me. It really is. It really is. So that's the only thing. So right now it's looking like a 3.5 star. I did like Carmilla a little bit more than I liked this one. Maybe this is a 3 star. Yeah, but I haven't thought about like being like, oh, I'm going to DNF this. It's still entertaining enough for me to keep going. But right now I think I'm liking Carmilla a little bit more than I liked this one. Oh, but the main character is older. She's like 30 or something, which I do enjoy. I need to know that I love my older main characters. Not that she's old. 30 is not old, but you know what I mean? Like, usually it's like, oh my gosh, she was 17, 16, she was 20. Like, I love that we have a more mature character. So I am enjoying that. That's my update. I will let you know when I'm done, because the next time that I talk to you is probably going to be when I'm done with this book. Yeah. Okay. So, see you later. Bye. Okay, so I finished Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, and I finished it in like 3 days. I finished it in like 3 days. And I thought that I was going to give this book like 3 stars, 3.5 stars. And I am shocked that I really liked it. I think I'm going to give it a 4-star review. Yeah, because it was actually really great. I used to hate historical fiction, and I've been reading more and more historical fiction like Carmilla, right? They have fantasy elements. This one doesn't. But Carmilla has historical fiction plus fantasy. Divine Rivals also has some historical fiction in there, and so does this. And I'm finding that, as maybe it's because I'm a little older now, I'm really loving historical fiction. And so I might start giving more historical fiction a try. So thank you, Kat Dunn. Thank you to all these books that I am reading now that are like time period pieces, because it's making me realize that I am now open to a genre that I was closed off to before. Anyways, I kind of already told you what this book is about, a little gist of it, but let me tell you in more detail now that I read the whole thing without spoiling anything. This is not a spoiler vlog. So, like I said, we follow Lenore, right? And Lenore has Carmilla that stays at her house, blah, blah, blah. We know that something is wrong with Lenore's husband. We know that he's a little off. There's something a little off about him. But Lenore hangs on to the fact that this is her husband, so he must love her, blah, 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 blah. And so Carmilla starts, Carmilla is she represents feminism. She is the one that's like, she's a woman that is ahead of her time, because she starts putting little things in Carmilla's head. She already sees that Carmilla already has that independent seed planted there. So even if she's a woman, she desires to be independent. And so Carmilla sees that seed in Lenore, and she starts telling her, your husband's not all that great. Your husband's not all that great. And she starts putting things in Lenore's head. And then Lenore starts to see things differently. She starts to see her husband differently. She starts to question everything. And then at first she like blames Carmilla, like, why would she put these things in my head? La 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 la. And pretty soon she realized that maybe the things that Carmilla's saying might not be so bad. It might not be a curse, but a blessing in disguise. It is so good. So this one, if you like, okay, this one doesn't have the vampires so much. I don't think that it has vampires. It was never explained that Carmilla's a vampire or anything like that. It could have been, but it could have been like something that's, I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't really focus on any of the fantasy elements. You never know about vampires. You never find out about vampires. We don't know if Carmilla's a vampire or if she's just a beautiful woman. We don't know. But what we do know is that Carmilla represents feminism. Carmilla represents women's independence, and she sees something in Lenore that like puts basically helps water that seed that she sees in Lenore to finally have her own independence, even though she is a woman. And I loved that. This is like, we support women's rights, we support women's wrongs sort of book, and I absolutely loved the story. It was a little sad, I'm not gonna lie, at the end, because I'm a little sensitive to certain things, but I ended up just really liking this book. I loved it a lot. This is one of those like female empowered books that I feel like every woman should read. Like, this is a very empowering book, and I am shocked that I liked this book as much as it did. I knew I was gonna maybe like it just because I just liked the cover, to be honest with you, but I didn't know that I was gonna like it this much. And don't get me wrong, we do still have a sapphic romance that goes on between these two characters. Okay, that sapphicness is still there. Although the romance kind of takes a back seat to the actual storyline, the plot, the friendship, the empowerment that happens and goes on. And Kat Dunn, she even said that when she was writing this, she was in a very dark place, and that definitely bled into her character and into Lenore. You get these deep, intrusive, dark thoughts that seep into Lenore that we have had as humans, especially during dark moments, and so it made Lenore feel that much more realistic and fleshed out and relatable, even if this story is supposed to take place like 200 years ago. So I loved it. I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. And now we are going to begin A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And I'm hoping that this one is just as good as well. I've heard nothing but good things. That this book is just, it's told so beautifully, so lyrically. It's written so poetically. And I'm excited. Hello there. So I am here with an update on A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I am now 183 pages into this book, so I'm a little more than halfway in, and I really like this book. I am loving this like dash of historical fiction mixed with sapphic romance mixed with vampires. I don't know what it is. We are following our main character Constanta, I think is how you say her name. Yeah, Constanta, but that was not originally her name. So basically Constanta used to have a name before, and this is not a spoiler, this literally happens at the very beginning. So she used to have a name before, and then a vampire shows up after her town gets basically destroyed by these horrible people, and they end up unaliving her family in front of her eyes, pretty much everybody in town, and she is bleeding out. And that's when this vampire man like sees her, and she's like, help me, and he's like, I can help you, blah blah blah. And then he sucks her blood, and then she sucks his blood, and then she becomes a vampire. And then all of a sudden she is filled with this new vigor and this new life in her, and she's also a lot stronger. And so the vampire guy, we don't know, do we know his name? Yeah, okay, we know his name, Dracula. She has not said Dracula though this whole time. She calls him my lord, my master, la la la, but she does not call him Dracula. Anyway, so Dracula basically gets Constanta. He's like, I'm gonna call you Constanta, and then he lets her up. He picks her up, and then he tells her, you're like basically telling her like, go after the men that killed your family, la la la. And so she does, and she realizes that she's a lot stronger than she used to be as a human. So she goes to the town, and there was like 12 men that had, destroyed her city, and she is strong enough to unalive every single one. And after that, she has this new thirst for blood, and so she decides to only go after people, mostly men, that deserve it. Men that do horrible things, men that commit horrible crimes and murders and all those things. So she goes after those men. And then pretty soon, years pass by, and Dracula is infatuated with this new woman named Magdala, I think is her name, Magdala. And they go to Magdala's house, and pretty soon Magdala becomes one of his brides as well, and becomes Constanta's basically companion as well, and they all are in love. And it's a love story, but it's not, because it's also talking about how abusive, how manipulative Dracula was. Like, he was terrible, and he was so manipulative to the point where like he always made it seem like it was Constanta's idea, that everything was Constanta's idea. Anytime something bad happens and she's like, why did you do this? He throws it on her, and then she's like, oh, what, am I in the wrong? He gaslights so bad And because he is this old, hundreds and hundreds, I don't even know, maybe even thousands of year old being, he's able to do it with such power, with such authority, because he already has that wisdom to know how to like get into people's heads. And it's just so good. It's like a story of survival. It's a story of like, if you have ever been in a toxic sort of, you know, that sort of toxic relationship, it's just so relatable. Like the gaslighting, the manipulation. Like, I've been in a relationship that like feels like this with the manipulation. You know what I mean? I've been, and so reading this, like, it makes me so angry for these characters, like for Constanta and for Magdala. It just, but at the same time, like, she feels trapped because she doesn't know how to get out of it. He's more powerful than her, he's stronger than her, she's scared to leave. And so it's this constant battle of like, I'm too scared to leave because he's gonna do something to me, and what will become of the people that I love, and what will become of me, but I can't, but I also still love him. And it's just this constant battle, and it's just so good. Like, it's so good. I love it. I love how they tell the story as it goes throughout the years, from like the 1200s, 1300s, 1500s, and now we're like in the 1800s. So these people have been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we see their boredom, we see their, like, they're tired of this life, but at the same time they still want to live. They just don't want to keep living by Dracula's rules, because they feel like even though they've been living for hundreds and hundreds of years, they haven't really had too many life experiences, especially on Magdala's part, because he's controlling everything, and they are afraid to tell him not to do that. So it's just so good. It's so good. So I'm really enjoying this. This is looking like a four. Yeah, I want to say four star for me. So yeah, that's my update. I'm loving all these books, all the books in this vlog so far. Like, I'm shooketh. And I feel like we keep getting better. We got a 3.5 star, which is not bad. And then we got a 4 star. Will this be a 4.5? Will this be a 5 star? Right now it's looking like a 4 star, but we do not know. And it is true what they say about the writing. It's lyrical, it's poetic, it is beautiful. So far, so good. I finished A Dowry of Blood in one single day. I did not think that I was going to read through this fast, but I didn't realize, even though it does seem like it's not a thick book, but it's not a thin book, if you know what I mean. But if you look at the font is actually pretty big. So, whereas a lot of fonts are a lot smaller. So this font is pretty big, and it isn't that thick. So it was a pretty quick read, and I managed to fly through this in a day. So in this story, I think I already talked about it, we're following Constanza and her relationship with Dracula, right? And how it evolves, and how it turns from this love, and she thinks that he's her knight in shining armor because he basically saves her life, right? And lets her have vengeance on these men that did these horrible things to her town and her family. And as the years go by, he starts to show his true colors, and then we realize that he is very toxic. He is a master manipulator. He gaslights her so much, and you see this pattern as he obtains another bride and another spouse as the years go by. And it's the same pattern where he spoils them, and then all of a sudden, after he gets tired of the honeymoon stage, he turns into, again, his true abusive self. And it's just it was just so good. It was just such a beautiful story told through, the writing is so lyrical and beautiful and hauntingly beautiful. like there were phrases that were heartbreaking, and it was just so good and so realistic, in the sense that, like, as the years go by, we have Dracula, who is deeply interested in philosophical things and why vampires are so different from humans. What makes vampires so different from humans? Why do vampires exist in the first place? Are they superior to humans? I mean, he obviously thinks they are. And just like, he is like a scientist, which is very interesting. And then we have another bride who, as the years go by, you know, her living this mundane life, because Dracula doesn't like them to live in the spotlight. He likes them to live in the outskirts of town so that they don't get noticed. As the years go by, her living the same mundane life and not really being able to experience things because Dracula doesn't let his brides out of his sight. You see her start to get depressed, because what is this long life, this long mundane life, if she's just so bored with it. She's just so bored with this long life because she's immortal, but what is she gonna do with that life? You know, it's just the same thing every single day for hundreds and hundreds of years. Of course you're gonna get bored of life. And it was just so beautiful. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's just a really good book, and at the very end, I loved it. I loved the ending. I just thought it was just such a beautiful and powerful ending. It just goes to show you, like, that love can conquer all, I guess. It's just really beautiful. It's a tale of love and heartbreak and toxic relationships and friendships and freedom, and what you will do to obtain freedom. And it's just such a hauntingly beautiful tale. Honestly, yeah, like, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I loved Constanza. I loved how she, like, her character development throughout the hundreds of years. She goes from being this woman who sees Dracula in some light and just being this small little person, and you slowly see her develop, like, that sense of independency, that sense of strength, courage, and I love it. Like, as her family grows, she realizes that she's the more prominent figure. I mean, obviously other than Dracula, because she's the first bride. It's just so good. It's just so good, and I really liked it. I'm gonna end up giving this a 4 out of 5 star. I thought this was gonna be a 4.5. It was really good, but it wasn't like 5-star good, if that makes any sense. So 4 out of 5 stars, that's gonna be my final. If I'm being generous, I'll do like 4.25. So our rating is getting a little bit higher. This vlog was only supposed to be 3 books. 3 lesbian, sapphic, vampire romances. But it has been brought to my attention that the new V.E. Schwab book perhaps also contains a sapphic vampire romance. So let's find out together if that's true, because I have it right here on my bookshelf. So, 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, one grows deep, one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. I don't know. So I'm gonna have to look this up, and I will let you know, because then we're gonna have to add this one. We're gonna have to add this one. So I just looked it up, and yes, this is a sapphic, toxic vampire love story. So it looks like this vlog is not going to be done yet, because now I have to add this. I have to add this now. I have to. Damn it.
killed him.
You
No,
never
no,
did
you
it.
slapped with your axe.
Yeah, some of the back of my ass.
No!
Alright,
Missed opportunity.
We're at a comeback. I want to say, like, hey,
It's done, right?
like, what happened, like...
Alright, so I am now a little more than halfway in to Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and this is a Sapphic vampire story, which I didn't know at first until I found out. So in this story, it's actually really, really good. I don't know what it is, but I am really liking the historical fiction vampire-ish side. I don't know what it is, but I'm really loving it. So we are following our main character. We're following three main characters, actually. We are following Maria, we're following Charlotte, and we're following Alice. But the first half, we're only following Maria and Alice. We don't really get to see Charlotte's point of view till a little bit later. Like, literally, I just got to Charlotte's point of view a little bit halfway to the story. But Maria is in the 1500s, and she is a woman that is ahead of her time, okay? Like, she is a woman that's so, like, I don't care that I'm a woman. I am going to live my own life. No man is going to dictate what I do. And so she is very strategic in who she marries. She gets this guy that she knows has a lot of money to fall in love with her, marries him, and basically uses him like a little pawn, right? And she's just... I really love Maria. Maria is probably my favorite character in this whole book so far. And then we have Alice, and Alice is a college student who is like all these women. We're following all three of these women that are all Sapphic. We're following all three of these women are gay. So we're following their stories, and we're following the vampires in here are a little bit different than the last books that I've been reading, because these vampires, they seem to like die a little bit sooner. Some live for hundreds of years, some only live one lifespan, and they slowly start to descend into madness because the hunger and the rot kind of just takes over all their body. It consumes them, it consumes their mind, and they just become this shell that was once human after that. So we're following these three characters, and we follow how each of these women become vampires, but they are all throughout different pieces of history. And so far, two of the characters have met. At least I think so. That hasn't been like proven, but I'm pretty sure that I know two of them have met. But I'm just trying to figure out how all of them connect, but it's finally starting to come together now, a little bit more than halfway. And I'm actually really liking this book. I don't know what it is. The pacing is not fast at all. I would say the pacing is even a little slow, but for some reason I don't mind it. Like, V.E. Schwab's writing is just so beautiful, and it just keeps me entertained no matter what. So I'm really enjoying this. This looks like a potential 4.5, maybe even 5-star. We'll see. So I'm hoping to finish this either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. We shall see. So that is my update on Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Hello everyone, and welcome to my reviews. So today we're going to be talking about my final review for this reading vlog, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. So I am pleased to say that I finished this in like 3 days. Thank goodness, because this book is so thick. It is over 500 pages, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book because it's a Sapphic vampire novel, and I have it on my shelves. So it needs to be done. And I finished it. So I kind of already told you a little bit about what it's about. We follow 3 different characters throughout 3 different timelines, except that they all each have their own different stories, and you don't realize the connection. Some of them you do realize the connection right away, but then you don't really realize the connection of all 3 up until the very end. So it was a very good story. I really enjoyed it. Maria was my favorite character initially. Maria was my favorite character up until something occurs, and after she becomes a vampire, which is not a spoiler, we obviously know that it's a vampire book. After she becomes a vampire, she changes, and then I felt like I was reading a completely different character, and there is a reason why I felt like it was a completely different character, is because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a reason why I didn't, like, even her, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say, like, even her name changes. No, because I'm not telling you what her name is or anything like that, but even her name changes. And that was like that was the first thing that like started like getting annoying. Not annoying, but that's the first thing that started irking me about this book. However, the story was really good. I liked how it took these 3 different individual stories and it tied them all in and raveled them all together, and it brought one big story, and how this vampire thing that happened, this event that happened over 500 years ago, how it trickled down in history and how it's still affecting people today, especially these particular characters. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was so good. I really enjoyed the book. However, the biggest thing that I had, my biggest issue was not the Maria thing. My biggest issue was the length of this novel. I feel like this book could have been wrapped up in at least like 400 pages. It didn't have to be over 500 pages. I feel like if it had been like 400 pages or even a little bit less, like 375, maybe 400, it could have been wrapped up well and not felt rushed. However, I just feel like it dragged on so long, so my interest kind of began to dwindle, because you already know what's going to happen. You already start to suspect things, and you know, it's later confirmed. It's nothing that like is like, oh my gosh, mind-blowing or anything like that. You already kind of know what's going to happen. And so my interest did dwindle after a little while, and I'm like, this needs to just finish. Okay, why is it still going on? Why is it still going on? And so that was the biggest issue for me, was that it just felt so dragged out, and I feel like it did not need to be this dragged out. It could have been a lot shorter or a little shorter and still give that like interest, and it wouldn't feel like rushed, the ending anyways, and it would still have kept me entertained, and it would have potentially been a 4.5 or even a 5-star. But because it was so dragged out and I just felt it, like my interest just started to dwindle, I'm gonna have to give this book 3.5 stars. It, like I said, it piqued my interest at the very beginning, but as we got further and further into the story, I'm like, why is this still going on? I just felt like it just could have been shorter. That's all. That's literally like my 2 things, is the Maria thing, and then it could have been a lot shorter and still been wrapped up nicely, because my interest did dwindle. Those were the only 2 things that I had. The only 2 thingies. The only 2 issues that I had with it. The cons. But, however, nonetheless, that big second one was a big con because like I said, my reviews are also based off of entertainment, and essentially I was very entertained, but as it dragged on, that entertainment, that interest, that intrigue dwindled a lot. So that is my final reviews for Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Hello, welcome to my final thoughts. I read 3 different books that happen to be obviously have horror elements, fantasy elements because they're vampires, and it also is basically like a historical fiction because it is based in a historical period. So I thought that I didn't like historical fiction, and then I read Divine Rivals, which had 2 things against it. It had the fact that it was YA, which I don't read, and the fact that it was historical fiction, which I don't read, and I loved it. And so now that I'm reading these 3 books that are also period, are they considered period pieces? I guess Carmilla's a period piece, but historical fiction-esque. Hope it counts as historical fiction-esque. I realized that now that I'm a little bit older, I do enjoy historical fiction. When I was younger, like when I was in like my early 20s, like I'm talking 21, right? 20, not even, I was like 18. I was like 18 when I first started picking up historical fiction. And then at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna like this. And the more and more historical fiction books that I read, I'm like, I don't like this genre. And so I thought historical fiction was not for me. But now that I'm in my very early 30s, I realized that now that I'm older, I love it. I'm loving this genre. So I might be picking up some more historical fiction in the future, which is a shocker to me. I might even try some historical fiction that doesn't contain fantasy elements. But the thing that I enjoy about historical fiction that these books have is the fact that even though in a lot of historical fiction books, the women are like, you know, they're treated a certain way because, you know, we didn't have rights back then. And that's the part that got on my nerves about historical fiction, because I don't know, that's like a pet peeve of mine. That is a trigger for me. I hate when like women are talked like they're beneath, because, you know what I mean? Because I know that's how we were seen in history, and it just pisses me the F off. And that was my biggest peeve with historical fiction. But I find that as I read historical fiction that contains women that are, regardless of how society sees them, they are still very empowered, and they have more power than you think, than any man thinks. They are very much underestimated by the typical man. I find that I like that. So feminist historical fiction, does that exist? We need more of that. Anyways, so that's just my little opinions about that genre in general. But we're gonna do my tier ranking now, sorry. I'm gonna do my tier ranking. So all of these books were great. You guys saw that the ratings ranged from 3.5 to a 4-star. So they were all really good books. Was it a 5-star read? No, but it takes a lot for me to be like, this is 5 stars. The fact that I even got a 4-star is like fantastic. So let's rank these books. I think at the very, very bottom, with a 3.5, is going to be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I already told you my final reviews on this. You already know what my little icks about it is, that it was such a thick book, and I just feel like it was so drawn out that it could have been wrapped up quicker. So that is at the very bottom, which is a 3.5, so it's still not bad. And then above that, a step above that, I'm going to put Carmilla, the original Carmilla, because I really liked it. I just thought that the ending was rushed. If the ending wasn't so rushed, so it had the opposite problem of this. If the ending wasn't so rushed, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, and it would have possibly have been a 4-star, but it was a little rushed, and that's why that's going here. Above that, coming in hot in second place, is going to be Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. I believe I gave this a 4-star. Yes, I really liked this book a lot. It was just so, like I said, very female forward, a very feminist heavy sort of historical fiction thing going on. And I don't even know if this one technically had vampires, because that was never really described if they were vampires. I think it was just a retake of Carmilla, but without it didn't contain that fantasy aspect or the horror. I guess it could contain the horror. No, yeah, it didn't contain that fantasy aspect. So, but I did really like this. So that's going in second place. And then at the very tippy top, at first place, with 4 stars as well, is going to be maybe 4.25. I might give it a 4.25. It's going to be A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I really liked this story, and even when I was reading the Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil book, I was thinking about this book a lot. And I was just like, I kept comparing the two, and I was like, and I kept getting them confused, and I was like, wait, no, that happened in A Dowry of Blood. And I just kept going back to A Dowry of Blood, and I'm like, okay, that book definitely stuck out in my mind. I loved it. The writing is so beautiful. It was so stunning, and I absolutely loved this book so much. And I liked that in each and every single one of these books, from Carmilla to Hungerstone to Bury Your Bones Under Midnight Soil to A Dowry of Blood, even though they're all essentially vampire books, right? The vampires are so different in each story. The vampires in A Dowry of Blood are so different than the vampire in Carmilla. They're so different from the vampires in Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil. It's just so interesting to read the perspectives of vampires and it being the same creatures, yet so vastly different in its origins, in how they live, and how long they live, and their immortality. All of that was just so interesting to me. So I really enjoyed this reading vlog so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please let me know if you want me to cover any other topic. Anything Sapphic, I'm all for. And then just anything with like creatures and stuff, I'm all for too. So if you have any suggestions, put that down below. If you have any feminist historical fiction book recommendations, also put that down below because I want to read more of that. I might even make a whole reading vlog to test that genre. I tested it with dark romance and I'm like, is dark romance for me? It pretty much wasn't, but I want to do the same thing with historical fiction. So feminist historical fiction. Is historical fiction the genre for me? Please give me any recommendations that you suggest. So put that down below if you can. Also, if you've read any of these books and you enjoyed them or didn't enjoy them, please let me know down below as well. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button because I post every single week. Also, make sure to hit that like button because that really helps out my channel. Also, the links down below. I have a Instagram now, so I'm gonna put that down below. I also have a TikTok, book talk. I have a podcast that I need to update because I haven't posted in a while. And I also have my Amazon wish list and my Goodreads list down below too. So if you want to be friends on Goodreads, if you want to add me on Instagram, please add me on Instagram because it'll push me to actually post more often. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!